Right, morning, afternoon, year two, business. How are we all? I hope you're all good. It was good seeing you last week and repeating myself a million times. Long lessons, these 3 hours in person, but yeah, good to see you all anyway. Hopefully, won't be too long before I can actually start teaching you face to face, but we'll worry about that as we get to it. A few little bits of admin before we start. First things first, when I put this on Classroom, I'm going to shove in an online register. Please, can you respond to that? And secondly, pretty much 95% of you last week did loads of work, did so much work I haven't marked it yet. So what I'm going to do after this is that I'm going to spend the afternoon marking your work. Now you're probably thinking, well, hang on, if you're marking our work this afternoon, you're not going to be teaching us on Zoom. Nah, I've been thinking about this long and hard. I did a lot of Zooming last week, and what I'm feeling like at the moment, while we're kind of doing catch-up stuff, things that maybe you did or didn't do during lockdown, some of you did, some of you didn't. I just think videos are the way to go. The video is yours on Classroom. You can pause it, you can rewind it, you can refer to it a million times. A Zoom lesson with me chatting to you with blank screens and a chat box saying, hello, can you hear me? Have you got any questions? Putting you in a breakout room where everyone ignores each other. I think for the time being, doesn't really work. I can't really sleep at night. Well, obviously I can sleep at night, but the saying is I can't really sleep at night teaching you a duff lesson and then kind of leaving you with nothing. So I'd rather at the moment just carry on this video thing. I know that obviously that loses the interaction, bearing in mind I've met you lot for about 2 minutes. But hopefully you're getting something out of this. And I said, these are your resources. What I will try and do next Tuesday, however, is just do an initial Zoom, just do like even just 20 minutes, and we'll have a quick catch up, see how you're getting on. And if you're really bored, and I'm really bored on Friday while I'm teaching economics, I might even pop in again and say hello. But it's going to be the same format as last week. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run you through a PowerPoint. It's going to take a while, this one. It's 2 big topics, quite fiddly topics. And then it's going to be a couple of worksheets. I've not actually set you any essay stuff as yet, because we're doing this consolidation of last year. I'm just sticking with the kind of lesson word, the kind of grid based, fill in the grid, do the sheet type stuff. But when we come towards the end of this catch-up bit, which I do believe is next week, we're going to get on the essay structures. And please don't forget as well, in your Google Classroom, you've got all those videos, all those resources looking at essay structures, okay? Mock week next week as well. You did receive an email about that at the start of the year, and I will certainly be chatting to you about that on Friday, as will Caitlin. Just for my OCD, I'm just going to quickly check that this is recording. Yes, it is, so I can get back to it. I had a thing last year where I recorded for 20 minutes. It wasn't recording, and I wasted my time completely, so there we go. All right, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the competitive environment and SWOT analysis. This comes on theme... Wow, where does it come? This is theme 2. Paper 2, so it is my stuff. Last year you would have done this with Zach with a net. Who knows what went on, but anyway, I know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you're going to know what I'm talking about at the end of this, so let's get to it. So we're going to start off with a competitive environment. As you can see there by the number at the top, 2.5.3, that means it is theme 2. Should have been done last year, though we're locked down, who knows. And all I need you to do is just to think about competition and market size. That's what the spec requires. Now, what is competitiveness? This, by definition, is the ability of a business to deliver better value to customers than its competitors. Let's break this down nice and easy, all right? I want to buy an iPhone. It's as simple as that. I've got my iPhone 8. It's kind of running up to contract now. It's getting a bit battered. I've had it for 3 years. I want to buy a new one, okay? Where am I going to go? If I go to the Apple store, I'm going to pay in Stratford. I'm going to pay full whack. Okay, I'm going to have to pay an upfront cost, or even on a contract, I'm going to be paying a very serious amount of cash for the iPhone, whatever it is that I want. Is the iPhone 10 around? I don't know, the X, there's something. Okay. If I go to the Apple store, I'm going to get a warm welcome. I'm going to have somebody with an iPad that knows what they're doing. They're going to, hopefully listen to what I want out of a phone. I want to put games on it. I want to put apps on it. I want to take photographs of my kid running around being a lunatic. I want, anything that I want out of a phone. They're then going to try and upsell to me. They're going to say, well, listen, do you want these earbuds? Do you want a kind of contract which will let us protect your phone for you? And I'm going to pay full whack for that. I'm going to pay a lot of money for that. I hate to think what I'm going to be paying I think it's next month, October. But I'm going to get good value out of that visit. Let's imagine then that I went to, I don't know, Mr. Somebody or other's phone shop in Hornchurch, down near Romford. And I walk in and, I might get a hello, I want to buy a phone. I want to buy an iPhone. I don't have iPhones. You can have a Huawei. You can have a whatever, a Sagem. Does Sagem still exist? I don't know. You can have a Huawei. I don't want a Huawei. I want an iPhone. Well, if you want an iPhone, I can get one on order for you. It might take a couple of months. All right, I'll wait a couple of months, I'll come back. I go back in 2 months, you got my iPhone, but you wanted the iPhone X, but I got you an iPhone 8, that's all we could get. Well, hang on, that's the phone that I already had, I don't want the same thing again. I've got a text message. That's ironic, isn't it? Anyway, you get what I'm saying here. Apple is the competitive leader in that market, be it via the handset. To me, I've always been iPhone loyal. I love the handsets. Be it via the iOS. I've got a Huawei phone. There's a work phone. I can't work the thing out. I can't get Android. Okay, I'm iOS loyal. I'm used to it. That gives me good value. Apple on all levels is, to me, the most competitive company. Think back to last year, its market share will show that, its profit margins will show that, its return on capital will show that. All that stuff he did last week mathematically, financially, Apple are top dog. And its market capitalization, the value of its shares now, I think are in the trillions. I could be wrong on that, but you may want to Google that in your own time. I'm sure I heard that over the summer. All right, now I want you to have a little thing. You might want to pause this video, okay? I want you to think about what actions a business can take to try and improve their competitiveness. Rank your top 3 answers, 1 being the most important, and so on. I'm going to have a quick discussion about this. So if you want to think about this in your own time and jot down some notes, press pause now. Right, if hopefully you press pause and then press play again. So I'm going to just quickly chat through this. Can we improve competitiveness? I do not know. That stupid example I gave you of the Mr. Whatever's phone shop in Hornchurch, can they be more competitive? They're never going to be like an Apple store. They haven't got the money, they haven't got the capital to make their shop look like an Apple store. Bright lights, spacey, all these kind of sample units that you can use to recruit the amount of workers that an Apple store has. But maybe Mr. Who, whatever his name is, I can't bother to think of a name, to be honest with you. I could call him Mr. Slotnick, but then I'd be talking about myself. That would be weird. But they could recruit a couple more workers. They could make sure that they're stocking iPhones as opposed to just Huawei's and Sagems. If you don't know what a Sagem is, Google it. It was a serious phone back in the day. It wasn't really, it was rubbish, and it still is, if it still exists. The point I'm trying to make is it is hard to become more competitive, okay? But what we'll have a look at now, we'll have a little think about maybe what competitiveness actually means. So for a company like Apple, because they're top dog in the market, and I don't care what you say, if you think that Samsung is better than Apple, I'm not going to hear it, okay? I'm going to stick with Apple. If you as a company can add more value for your customers than your rivals and attain a position of relative advantage, you have got that competitive advantage. I don't see Samsung stores. I'm sure they exist. I've never been into one. Maybe you have. I don't know. But Apple stores, I am sure, are better than Samsung stores if they actually exist. A situation where a business has an advantage over its competitors by being able to offer better value, quality, and or service. Well, you've listened to me now for about 10 minutes. You should know full well that I think Apple have got competitive advantage. Their handsets are amazing. The iOS is amazing. It's clean, it's crisp, it's got everything that I want, okay? So I believe that Apple has the competitive advantage. You can think for any other industry that you want to. In the world of football, who has a competitive advantage? Arsenal, quite clearly. In the world of sportswear, who has a competitive advantage? To me, it's got to be Foot Locker. You could look at Sports Direct. They're like jumble sales. They're like TK Maxx. You walk in, the stuff piled up. It looks terrible. The competitive advantage comes from Foot Locker. It's clean. It's crisp. You go in there. There's good customer service, and their profit margins, their return on capital will show that. Apply to any given industry. And when we're talking about industry, this is where it gets fiddly, people, and this is where I'm going to tell you to do your first bit of work, okay? I'll go through that at the end. When we think about competition, we need to think about who you're competing against and how you're competing, okay? And economically, and we're thinking about an economic theory here, and those that do economics, you'll be doing this. Firms generally tend to operate in four market structures or four competitive environments. So I'm just going to skip back. You've got to think about these four structures and how firms can achieve competitive advantage and how firms can be competitive against their competitors. All right. So I'm going to go through this bit by bit, and hopefully the worksheet I'm going to set at the end of this is going to consolidate that for you. Four structures. We start small, we end big. Let's start with perfect competition. Your definition of perfect competition is many firms, loads of firms, small, tiny, one-man bands, one-woman bands, and they're all producing or selling a homogeneous good. If you don't know what the word homogeneous means the same. You can only alter it via small tweaks, promotion methods, etc. Let's talk through the idea of the chicken shop. Now, I'm a man that likes the chicken, okay? I like good chicken, okay? In my view, maybe something like Nando's is good chicken. Listen, I like going to the Dorchester. I like going to a posh hotel, 7-course meals. Maybe I'll have a good bit of chicken, okay? But on a Friday night, yeah, it's going to be a chicken shop. I'll probably go to KFC. But chicken is chicken is chicken. You get a bit of chicken, you deep fry it, you put maybe some, I don't know, spice, some rub on it, but it's still chicken. And if you think about the dodgy chicken shops, the HFC, the KFCs, the PFCs, the Dixies, you're going to get chicken, okay? They're altering these by changing the way that they present. People in one of my classes last week were going mad that KFC's 80 popcorn chicken for £5.99, okay? But it's still chicken. They're presenting it to you in a different way than a big lump of chicken, but it's still chicken. How many times can I say it's still chicken? The good is homogeneous. You go to the chicken shops near the college, they will give you chips, a lump of chicken, and a Coke. How do they differentiate? How do they get that competitive advantage within the perfect industry? They're going to give you deals. £2 lunchtime deal, large chips rather than normal chips, 2 bits of chicken rather than one, a bottle of Coke rather than a can of Coke, okay? So the homogeneous good, the sole good of chicken, because I'm going to say it for the last time, chicken is chicken, then becomes differentiated. Think back to last year, differentiating your product. We're offering it differently. These firms are tiny. Your Dixies, your PFCs, your HFCs run on very low profit margins. They run on low cost, low price, but that's how they differentiate. Let's upscale then. We'll move to the next one, the monopolistic competition. Okay, look at the definition. Don't worry about how funny the word is and how I say it in a weird way. Monopolistic. Competition between many smaller firms, but they're different to perfect because they're producing differentiated goods. And my key example here is the notion of a restaurant, okay? Many small firms, you go down any given high street, you're going to see a lot of small restaurants. Not your chicken shops, but your sit-in restaurants, okay? But they differentiate on goods offered, on quality, and on price. Okay, so I'm currently in a part of London that is going towards the Essex borders. If I look out my front window and look to the right, there's a couple of restaurants down there. I've got the Jaipur and I've got the Gandhis, okay? They both sell Indian food. They differentiate, even though they're the same, they're still restaurants selling Indian food. They differentiate based on quality. Jaipur, high quality, slightly higher price. When I get sizzling Sally beef, okay, now that's beef marinated with potato, like chips on the top, and I pay £13 for it, I'm gonna get serious quality. When I go to Gandhi's and I get a dansak or whatever I want to get, I'm gonna pay £8. I'm gonna get more food, but in my view, the quality is lower. And then I can keep going down the road. Tea's Peri Peri, Pepe's Peri Peri. I think we've got a fish restaurant down there as well. Small firms, highly competitive, differentiated goods. Quality of service. I go into the Jaipur, I might get a free drink. I get a free drink because the guy who owns it has a son at Leighton, or had a son at Leighton, or sons at Leighton. You may know them. If I do, whatever. If you do, sorry, whatever. But I'm going to get quality. With Gandhi, yeah, you get the welcome at the front, but it's a bit less formal, it's a bit less personal than what I'm going to get at Jaipur. Okay, and we can apply monopolistic to a number of other different industries, lots of small firms producing differentiated goods. So if we think about it in terms of market shares, there's going to be kind of a large amount of firms with quite small market shares. We then go on to the crazy word of oligopoly, okay? Competition between a small number of large suppliers, and I'm talking humongous multinational corporations. Banking, chocolate bars, mobile phones, tour operators. Let's go to the banking sector. I like the banking sector. You go to any high street, you'll be lucky to find a bank. But go back 10 years, how many branches of banks would you see? Barclays, HSBC, Santander, Lloyds, Halifax, etc., etc. You've now got a few more metros and all that kind of stuff, but for high street banking, there's probably 5 or 6 key banks on the high street. There is a small number of huge banks, and these banks you cannot compare in size and scale to the monopolistic firms and the perfect firms, okay? In terms of kind of thinking about how they might differentiate, and I don't want to get too much into the banking industry. Banks are banks. You get loans, you put your money in. That's pretty much it. But they'll differentiate. They'll make themselves different in that highly competitive industry by giving better interest rates on their loans, okay? So the lower a rate of interest, the more motivated you are to borrow from that bank. You're going to go to that bank. I've banked with Barclays for about 20 years. They've always given me the best rates of interest on my borrowing, on my credit cards, and my overdrafts, etc. And also, you think if you want to get a loan or a mortgage, you're going to go to the bank that offers you the best rate of interest, the lowest rate of interest. Now, in that respect, for my mortgage, I went to Halifax for that. So I kind of went away from my Barclays loyalty to Halifax because they were giving me the better offer, okay? How else do these banks compete? It's got to be via the online offer, all right? Because we don't really have banks anymore to walk into. They might have one person. 10 years ago, you'd go in, 4 people behind a kind of cash till or whatever, you get that personal touch. Now it's computers, it's machines, and one person. So they currently compete based on quality. It's got to be the online offer and what they can offer you with your online banking, the cards. Even Barclays now let me personalise my card. I can put my kid's picture on my card. That's a competitive advantage for Barclays because other banks won't let me do that. Oligopolies can also be supermarkets. Okay, think about it. Your big supermarkets, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, Asda's, Waitrose, M&S, Lidl, Aldi. There's your key 8, all right? And within that, there's going to be a league ranking of top to bottom, okay? How do they differentiate? Lidl and Aldi are just as competitive as Tesco's on their low price, low cost, low profit margin offer, but sell in bulk. Waitrose are on the other end. They're kind of, there's less of them and they're less big and there's less stuff there than Tesco's. Higher price, higher cost for the company, but I'm going to get stuff that I can't get in Tesco's. I'm going to get a choice of drinks that I can't get in Tesco's. In terms of the continental cuisine, like the kind of world foods, they've got so much more high quality stuff in Waitrose than Tesco's do. Can you really compare Tesco's and Waitrose? That's up to you, but they operate in the same industry. Maybe the most dead definition now comes to monopoly, a single supplier of something in an industry. There's no competition. You know, they are the sole supplier. The only examples I can think really are water and gas. And the way that we do this is geographically, okay? So I live in London now. My only supplier of water is Thames Water. I pay them for water. I pay them to take the wastewater away if I have a shower or if I do the washing up. I can't shop around. I can't say, well, I quite fancy using, I don't know, Liverpool water. It doesn't exist, but Liverpool water, because they only supply Liverpool. When Thames Water raise their prices, I can't shop around. I can't say, well, I don't fancy paying these prices. I'm stuck. I used to live in Hornchurch, which is way out on the Essex borders. We used to have Essex and Anglia Water as our suppliers, not Thames Water. But again, if Essex and Anglia Water, if there was a burst water pipe, they would come and fix it, but they charge me for it. I couldn't say, well, I don't want to pay that. It's too expensive. I want to pay Thames Water to fix my water pipe. I couldn't. Essex and Anglia Water were the monopoly business in that industry. There was no competition. Back back in the day, we used to have for mainline trains, if you wanted to go from London, say, to Newcastle, you had to go via British Rail. That was the only supplier of trains, British Rail, to that industry. There was no competition. Prices were high. If I had no other choice. If I wanted to go to Newcastle, I had to pay the prices being set. Quality was awful. If I complained about quality, they go, well, and what? We think our quality is good. Not like you can do anything else to get the train to Newcastle. You have to come with us. So monopoly is the sole uncompetitive competitive environment. And to be honest with you, thinking forward to examinations, etc., what you need to be doing here is thinking about, when you're reading through a case study, what type of market structure are we operating in? Because this is external, firms can't really control it. How will the external competitive environment be affecting our businesses? They're never going to be using a monopoly because there is no real monopoly market anymore. Okay? You need to think about how firms stand out in each market type, but we're going to do that via a worksheet in a bit, so you can ignore that last point. All right, a few little more definitions. Really, to become the competitive leader, to hold that competitive advantage, what you need as a business is a USP, a unique selling point, all right? And that's something that sets a product apart from your competitors in the eyes of the customers, both new and existing. It lets you, on the right-hand side, differentiate. It doesn't have to be based on price, but it leads to higher profitability, okay? I think that Apple differentiates. I'm going to show you my phone again. Beautiful bit of kit. It differentiates based on the iOS. I pay high price, but I get that amazing iOS that can't go wrong. You can't break it, okay? Everything is where it needs to be. When I look on Android, I don't know what I'm doing, okay? And I've tried with my Huawei work phone. I've really sat down, downloaded some apps that I'm going to use for work, obviously, not Now TV or Spotify. But I can't work the thing out. I can get the apps to work, but that's about it. Apple don't compete based on price. They know that people are going to pay on contracts or one-off payments. They go on the quality. That picture there, as far as I can see, let me just, if you don't know where I'm looking at this picture here, is a shop called Lush, all right? Now, I'm not really a man who likes to put bath bombs in my bath, but if I was going to buy bath bombs for my bath, try saying that over and over again, I'll probably go to Lush. High price, I get that, but I'm going to get some serious bomb for my money in my bath. But Lush and Apple will have higher profitability because of those unique selling points. To sum things up really for this part of the lesson, then this all comes down to market size and market share. The higher your level of competitive advantage, the more USPs you have, the more competitive you are, the more share you're going to have of that market. We go back to the idea of market size. That's the total sales value or sales volume within the given market. We look at all the units sold, mobile phones, every single unit sold globally, every single Nokia. Do they still exist? They probably do. Every single Apple, every single Samsung, Huawei, etc. And we times it by the prices that are being sold for the unit. We add it all together, we get our market size. For example, 2 million cars are sold at an average price of £15,000. We simply multiply the 2 million by the 15,000. That gives us a global car market size of £30 billion. This could also be looked at market size in terms of how many buyers and sellers there are in a particular market. But what you could say competitively is that as a market grows, this might attract increased competition. I'm not suggesting for a second that there's going to be a company tomorrow that's going to launch a new mobile phone and directly compete against Apple and number two, Samsung. But there's nothing stopping an innovative firm, a technical firm, making a new mobile phone and competing in that market. But think about their market share, their amount of sales divided by the total number of sales in the industry times 100, it's going to be low. Okay, why am I telling you about market size? Think about the market size of an oligopoly market. It's going to be huge. Think about the market sizes relatively of the monopolistic and the perfect. They're going to be far smaller. Okay. So think about this, all right? Your second opportunity to pause and have a real good think about this. Can a new entrant successfully enter an oligopoly market dominated by a few large businesses, or will barriers to entry keep them out? By barriers to entry, what I mean is, say in the mobile phone industry, the key barrier to entry is actually getting the production process started. If me and you lot, so there's 20 something of you, there's one of me, we each put in £1,000 and we say, right, we're going to start making mobile phones. We're having a laugh, aren't we? With that £30,000, we couldn't even buy almost kind of the resources to make maybe 10 phones, 20 phones, I don't know, let alone get a factory, get machinery. So the barrier to entry there is that new entrants won't have that kind of money. The barrier to entry in the phone market is that Apple have got such a massive market share, Samsung have got such a massive market share, and they've been developing their units, so their handsets and their software, their iOS, the kind of, obviously Samsung have bought in Android, but they're obviously helping to refine Android as a thing. They've had like 15 years of doing this. We could never hope to compete. Other barriers to entry. Apple have been going a long time. They make your MacBooks, your iPods, no, they don't make iPods anymore, your iPads, etc. They've got those 40 years, 50 years even of experience. We could never hope to do that. I know it might sound stupid, but we couldn't do it. It'd be very easy though for me and you to get £30,000 to set up a chicken shop. We need to get a premises, rent it probably. We need to get an oven, or whatever they use, oil, etc. Get some chicken, bang, off we go. We're going to start making money. There you go. So have a little pause. Think about industries like pharmaceuticals, supermarkets, soft drinks, and social networks. Can they enter in seriously to an oligopoly market? All right. Have a little pause. I'll go through it in a sec. Okay, let's get back to it. Hopefully you paused, otherwise I'm going to be looking really weird. All right, we'll go from the top. Pharmaceuticals, drugs, medicines, no chance. Absolutely no chance. GlaxoSmithKline, AstraZeneca, Pfizer. Those three companies have got that pharmaceuticals industry, especially in the UK, locked down. There's almost a monopolistic market, not a monopoly market, but a monopolistic market underneath those big three. We could maybe enter that, but that would be a push. But to get into the top three pharmaceutical companies, no chance. These drugs have got patents. The production processes have got patents, and those three companies are going to have those production processes and patents locked down for infinite amounts of time. There is no chance we could get into that industry. What about we set up a supermarket? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with us setting up a little, I don't know, Slotnick supermarket on the Lee Bridge Road, but let's not kid ourselves, let's not fool ourselves. Oh, my phone's going off again, sorry, let me just put it away. Let's not kid ourselves. We're not going to be competing against Tesco's. We're going to have one little shop and that's it. Soft drinks market. Could we be the new Coca-Cola? No. Do I even need to explain that why? Look at Coca-Cola. Look at the size of the company. Even underneath the kind of Coca-Colas and the Pepsis, you might have a monopolistic industry of like craft soft drinks, all these nice new drinks coming through, Dandelion and Burdock, all that kind of stuff. But they're not competing against Coke. No chance. What about a social network? Why don't we set up a social network? No. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, flipping TikTok have got that on lockdown, that market. We cannot come in and do that. I'd say to you at the four examples that maybe social networks could be the easiest to get into, but I don't know. How can you differentiate social networks now? I mean, I don't see how we do it. You lot might know more than me. All right, I'm going to move on then to SWOT analysis. We've been going for a while, people. If you want to pause and take a break, feel free to do so. This is kind of the second lesson of the two lessons that we're doing today. You may have heard of this last year, you may not. I'm going to take it from scratch. What we're going to do here is we're going to think about, and this is kind of year 2 learning. So although it was taught last year, as far as I'm aware, with that weird scheme of learning that I do need to put on Classroom for you, but we're going to think about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What do you need to know? Simply speaking, you need to know about what a SWOT analysis is, and then strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. But you need to think about what comes from within the business and what comes from externals, what comes from outside. In terms of linking this up, by looking at SWOT analysis, we can then link this to PESTEL that I'll look at with you next week. We can look at this link into strategy that you would have looked at the start of the first year. We can link it back to gaining competitive advantage that I've mentioned previously in this video. We can link it to your competitiveness, but you can also use it for benchmarking and KPI, key performance indicators. You can use SWOT analysis to kind of look at yourself compared to your competitors. And all your firms will do this. Your big firms will constantly be thinking about the SWOT, the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities and threats against their nearest competitors. So SWOT analysis helps a firm assess its competitive strength and the nature of its external environment. And we do this by looking at SWOT. Now, your SW, your strengths and weaknesses, are about you and you only. They're internal to the business. Your OT, your opportunities and threats, are things coming from outside of the business. Again, we're going to do a little exercise on this at the end of the video that hopefully will kind of make this a bit clearer to you. Simply speaking, by looking at our strengths and weaknesses, by managers, by CEOs, by top management sitting down and looking at the SW, the O and the T, this is going to be looking at getting them some kind of competitive advantage. It lets them benchmark, it lets them compare themselves against their competitors, and it also lets them set targets for their kind of shop floor managers, if you will, for their middle managers to judge competitiveness and performance. What do we look at with regards to strengths and weaknesses? Well, what firms will do, they'll probably do, and this is a little checklist, there's thousands of variables to look at, but firms will be looking at their market share, they'll be looking at their operating profit margins, they'll be looking at their efficiency, their productivity, which I haven't done with you yet. We're going to do that as we go through to October. They're going to be looking at brand recognition, who recognizes what they're doing. They're going to be looking at loyalty and repeat custom. They're also going to be looking at their share issue, their market capitalization, how many shares are on offer, how much are they worth, is the share value growing? The better we do, the more our shares are worth, the more money that we have as a business. They're also going to be looking at quality. All of these things are driven in the main from within the business. Okay, these are internal to the business. How do we look at our strengths and weaknesses? Okay, how do we evaluate them? How do we think? If everything is looking brilliant, sorry to skip back, if our market share is higher, if our operating profit margins are higher, if our efficiency is good, if we've got loads of customers, is the business perfect? You need to focus on the most important. You need to think about what's important to you as a business. Apple may be looking at, I don't know, what don't Apple have to worry about? Is there anything internally in the business? They haven't got to look at sickness, all right? If somebody in the Stratford branch has 2 days off, I very much doubt the CEO of Apple out in California is going to get on the phone going, wow, you had 2 days off. They've got to think about, again, to flick back the big picture, the market share, the profit, the efficiency. Hope that makes sense. Also, when you evaluate your own strengths and weaknesses, should it just be you as the business doing that? Or should you be getting outside consultants to come in and look at your internals, but with a kind of fresh eye? What I mean by a fresh eye is getting somebody from outside the company in to have a look at your business. Coming to Leighton, we as a college know what we're good at and what we need to improve, and that comes from the principal, the senior leaders, the managers, the senior tutors, etc., etc. But when Ofsted came in just before lockdown, we got external consultants, external people to come in and look at the college, look at what we were saying about ourselves, but thinking how realistic that was. Because if you only go with what you think as an organisation, how can you really grow? Okay. The other question is, how sustainable are your strengths? Your market share is massive. Your profitability is high internally. Imagine if Samsung bring out their new thing. What they're going to bring out? A bendy phone? A phone with like a screen on the back and the front and on the side? You can't plan for that. You can't plan for that. And that might put your iPhone X, your 10s or whatever, on the back foot compared to Samsung. So you've got to worry about that. Can you sustain your advantages? And if you identify a load of weaknesses, profit levels are dropping on the iPhone 8, okay? Can they be overcome? Think back to last year, think back to theme 1, the product life cycle. Is the iPhone 8, which I know and love, I've shown you it twice now, shall I show you it again? No, I'm just showing off, even though you've probably got better phones than I have, although I do like my phone cover. Can we overcome these weaknesses? Or do we let the iPhone 8 die? Does it become a dog product? Do we not extend it? Do we let the product die off? And if we choose to extend the iPhone 8, how do we extend it? Do we rebrand it? Do we rebadge it? Do we call it the iPhone 8 Plus, something like that? Do we put new core features on it? Those augmented features, that design mix stuff. Think about it. All right, opportunities and threats we're going to be looking at next week. But basically, everything that we have done in the last, well, everything that we did last week, the legislation, the economics, everything that you hopefully looked at last year with Zach or with Annette, technology, social factors, environmental factors, and political factors linking to law. Firms can't control these. If the government said, we don't like TikTok, we're going to start taxing British users to use TikTok, we're going to start charging you to use TikTok, TikTok can't control that. They will have to kind of deal with that threat. How do they deal with it? Even though internally they're making serious levels of profit, they've got mad dancing going on. I don't understand it, but they do. They can't control the external threat. Okay. When we look at our opportunities and threats coming from outside the business, how do we take advantage of opportunities? Imagine that Apple do some market research and that customers say, all right, this is what we want for the iPhone 12. We want a bendy phone. We want to be able to bend our phone like a piece of paper. Do they take advantage of that? Do they start making bendy phones? Or do they think that's a stupid idea? Let's not bother. But yet if Samsung were to act on that and bring out the bendy phone, then Apple's competitive advantage is lost. How do we protect against the threats? Imagine that there's rumors in the phone industry, that there's a new competitor from China coming in. They're going to offer the quality of Apple and Samsung combined at the price of Huawei. How do we protect against that? Do we start dropping off our prices? Do we increase our quality to combine the core features of both our own iPhones and Samsung? Who knows? The last bit we haven't done yet, contingency planning. Contingency planning is plan B. If Apple know there's going to be a new competitor in the industry that are going to blow them out of the water, like Apple did to Nokia all those years ago, what is the plan B? Do we start to think about, all right, let's forget the phone industry. There's nothing we can do with this industry anymore. We're just going to move out of the industry. Crazy, I know, but you never know. Let's give you a little example from Tesco's in 2016. In 2016, I don't remember what I was doing. I'm sure it was good though. Here were the strengths of Apple. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with Apple. Here were the strengths of Tesco. You can tell I'm getting tired now. It's only midday. The internal strengths, they were the UK market leader. They had a 20% market share of the supermarket industry. They were the leader in e-commerce online sales. They had half the full online sales in the UK. They had economies of scale. We haven't done that yet. You may have heard it mentioned last year. What it means is they were so big that when they went to their suppliers, when they went to a farmer and said, we're going to pay you 40p for a bottle of milk and we're going to sell it for £1, and the farmer said, no, I want 50p for the bottle of milk, they would say, we're not paying that, forget you, we're going to go to the farmer down the road. Okay, they controlled their suppliers. They were so big, they had full control of all their suppliers. Maybe not all, but most. Certainly the small farmers. Their weaknesses, there was some issues going on. They had a brand reputation that was suffering, even though they were the UK market leader. Their treatment of suppliers, like taking the mick out of farmers, paying them substantially lower prices, was problematic. They had an accounting scandal. They were overinflating their profit. They were telling shareholders they were making X billion profit. They weren't. Okay. They were coming out of the horse meat scandal, selling burgers made with horses, not a good look. And they also were starting to lack clear market positioning. Lidl and Aldi had their we sell cheap. Waitrose and M&S had their we sell expensive. Tesco's had their, if you come in, we've got the value stuff next to the really expensive stuff, and you choose what you want. But that showed they didn't really know what their customers wanted. Some of them wanted the cheap baked beans, some of them wanted the £3 baked beans. There was a clear lack of message for Tesco's there. What were the opportunities in 2016 for Tesco's? Well, the key opportunity was to regain the UK market share through clearer focus on their core market. Their core market are people like me. I don't want the value baked beans for 6p. I can't be bothered to pay £3 for the baked beans. Why am I talking about baked beans? I don't know. It's the first thing that came to mind. I want the £1 baked beans, the middle market. And they started to shift back that focus onto people like me and probably like you, unless you like £3 baked beans or 6p baked beans. I'm going to stop talking about baked beans. They also looked at improving their customer loyalty through better customer service. One of the core external opportunities was to take in training from other companies like Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's to really drill home that high quality customer service that those other two companies were known for. What were the core external threats in 2016? Aldi and Lidl, post 2008 global financial crisis, really were eroding, eating into the market share. Okay, and while they had a clear message, we're cheap, our brands are weird, they're going to look like McCoy's crisps, but they're not McCoy's crisps, but you're going to pay maybe, I don't know, 60p rather than £1.50. That was their core message. Tesco's never had that, as we've already said. The other key threat was the impact of Amazon Fresh into the UK market. And if we bring this up to date now, the e-market, the Ocados, the Amazon Fresh is huge. I might be wrong on this, but haven't Morrisons signed exclusivity with Amazon Fresh? If you want to buy Morrisons online now, you have to go via Amazon Fresh. What are Tesco's doing about that? I don't know. I'm looking out the window now, and I'm not joking here. There has already been 2 Tesco's trucks drive past. All right, it's a popular Tesco's area here. So maybe that threat was eroded. Maybe the threat was unsustainable. They didn't have to worry. To sum up, ladies and gentlemen, I've spoken to you for a long time, all right? SWOT is good. It's logical. 4 things to think about. It focuses on your core strategy, your big issues, and it makes you think about what's going on outside your company. But poorly done SWOTs lack focus. You put in a million different things. What do you focus on? We spoke about independence. If your company only produces its SWOT and nobody outside the company, specialist consultants, see it, is it going to be realistic? And what do you do with your SWOT? Do you update it every day? Do Tesco sit there and update their SWOT every day? Probably not. They quickly become out of date. 2 things I want you lot to do for me then. Worksheet number 1 is this. This is called the Competitive Environment Big Grid O, or Big Grid of Competition. For each of those competition types, I want you to jot me down some bullet point responses. In that market, in the perfect, in the monopolistic, in the oligopoly, in the monopoly, how do your firms stand out from the rest? How do they differentiate themselves? How does that then affect the firms competing in the market? Okay. What about the consumers? For the firms, think back to your core business ideas. In perfect competition, what does competing against loads of little chicken shops, for example, do to your levels of profit, do to your levels of cost, do to your levels of revenue, do to your levels of customer service, etc.? The last thing we haven't mentioned is we've got an organisation within the government called the Competition Commission. We spoke about this a bit last week. Government likes competition because it means more profit. If firms are competing, lower in prices, more profit, more sales, more tax paid to the government. The Competition Commission will step in when industries are non-competitive. They do not like monopolies in the slightest, okay? So to what extent would the Competition Commission be looking at chicken shops on the Lea Bridge Road? I'm not sure. To what extent would they be looking at Tesco's as a key oligopolist, maybe getting too big, coming towards a monopolist? Well, that's a different thing, okay? And the second sheet, so fill all that in. Hopefully that makes sense. Any questions, do let me know. The second one is a case study, and we're looking at SWOT, but we're going to apply it to Black Friday. Now, I hate Black Friday. I cannot, and you know, what I do like about Black Friday is going onto YouTube and Googling fights on Black Friday and seeing people hitting each other with televisions that they should be buying. I find that quite funny, but I cannot abide going to a shop on Black Friday. I don't mind the Cyber Monday when you do the online thing. If you get up at 6 o'clock and join a queue to buy a new computer with 1,000 other people doing it in London, but Black Friday's not for me. Anyway, you've got some serious information there about Black Friday. What it says is, in the 3rd paragraph, I do believe Asda decided not to participate in Black Friday, but most of the other big companies do. We know that. What I want you to think about is filling this in with bullet points. Internal strengths provided for a retailer involved in Black Friday. Internal weaknesses posed for a retailer involved in Black Friday. What's the problem of being involved in Black Friday? If you take the internal decision to do that, what kind of conscious image issues does that pose if people see on YouTube people beating each other up in your store? Okay, it's not a good look. In terms of the externals, What opportunities are there for you operating in Black Friday from an external perspective? Could you grow based upon growth of others? And what external threats are there as well? What problems might there be? I'd say the externals are going to be harder than the internals based on this, because obviously a firm chooses to opt in or opt out of Black Friday. Okay? But anyway, give it a think, give it a go. I'm sure some intelligent Googling could help you. Listen, that's it. That's a long video, okay? What I will do is, now, as I said at the start, this video is yours. You pause it, you rewind it, you fast forward it, you do whatever. I'm going to set a deadline for 4:30 of these 2 worksheets, and next week we're going to get into more essay-based stuff. I'll be about on Classroom this afternoon marking work, so if you need to have a chat with me, do it via email or on Classroom, and we will start the Zoom in next week. But as said, the point I'm trying to make is we're playing catch-up here. We've gone through 4 topics in the space of about an hour over 2 weeks in terms of talk content that I don't think we could have done if we were Zooming and I was saying every 2 minutes, is everyone there asking you questions? I think we're just going to, we've gone quite pure in the past 2 weeks. I'm going to upload this now, and I will come and see you lot again on Friday, but please do hit me up if you have any issues. Adios, have a good hot afternoon.